Hi everyone, good morning. This is what my desk looks like when I finish a project. Everyone that is new to the group might also not know my background. I'm a couture tailor. I've trained in the 1980s with a great lady called Heidrun Tucker, and I've learned my skills there, and sometimes I had to do things like 7 times and she'd just take one look and just look at me and go again, and I would hate her. But I've learned my skills there, and I have to say I owe this lady a lot, because thanks to her I learned how to be tidy even if my desk isn't tidy, you know. But anyway, that's it. And then I've worked for Madame Tussauds. I've worked for, I did a display for Harrods, worked for English Eccentrics in the 90s, Thomas Datsevsky, who was a couture tailor in London as well. And I've also created collections for Carol Waller for about 5 or 6 years while I was living in Bath with my husband. And then when we moved to Germany, I worked for Annette Röstl, who's also a really fantastic designer. And then finally, of course, in between, I also trained as a teacher of textiles and product design, and I taught that then when we moved back to England for a very long time, years, too many years. And then when I didn't want to be a classroom teacher anymore, because I wasn't really natural at it, good results, but it was very tough for me. I'm not really a crowd control person. So I thought, right, this is no longer working for me. I want to teach people that actually want to learn what I have to teach them. So I started working for Worcestershire County Council, and I taught courses which taught people how to sew, but also how to, you know, how to start your little business with it and all that sort of thing. So that was really great. Best years of my life, I have to say. Teaching wise, that was an absolute blast. I was mainly in Kidderminster, so yay kiddie. And then after that I've moved to America, where also our son studies, and now I'm here and I'm just concentrating on my business, and I'm doing what I do best, taking all this experience of almost 30 years actually in tailoring and creating wedding dresses. Did I mention I had a wedding dress shop? Yeah. So when you get to my age, you have done a lot of stuff. But apart from that, so this is who I am, and I'm very glad for everyone that's joined us. Let's get on with little Vivienne alterations. And if you have any questions, you can ask them. I can do little, you know, things like this. This is not going to be a public video on YouTube. This is just for the group with a link. So, Ace, let's get cracking. Right, so let's have a look at this dress first of all. This is one of these dresses that I've made while I was working out the collar here, the asymmetric collar, so it wouldn't peep up anymore and it would be lying nice and flat back as well. So at the time, because I was also making lots of samples for my friend Ella, and she's a size 18, so I made this in an 18. Now I'm actually a size 16. Because I'm 5'2", I'm really, really small. So she's like up there. So what happens when you do this? And I think this is the question that Laurie has as well. She says, well, I need the 20 side piece, but actually I'm only 5'2", so she's like me. What happens when you do a bigger size, and it would be far more exaggerated on the 20, is this. This dress does not fit me well. You might think that over the camera this looks good, but I just want to show you something. If I just lift up the shoulders a bit here, the whole thing fits better, and I will not pull this down. So one of the options is, if it really is only a matter of height, and it's not like a massive difference, then you can just do this. You just take off 1 centimeter of the shoulder seam to lift the whole dress up. So let's look at what happens when you have to do it and it's like a few more sizes out, because then the changes are a little bit bigger. So let's have a look. Right, I apologize that it's a bit noisy in the background, but I want you to just have a look here at the front piece for the Vivienne in 16 and in 20. Okay, so if I line up my shoulders here, you can see that it's not only longer, but that also this line has changed. This is why you can't just use a bigger size, it'll just not fit you. But we can use the size 20. Oops, let's put this to the back. to just cheat our way in, can't we? Because you can actually see how it needs to be. Okay, so I'm going to go up here, line this up with the front, and I can see here where that is. Now, one thing before you do this is this. One more reason not to have this public on YouTube. Okay, so what I want you to do is to go and see here, the my sort of center of my bust is right on the seam. So what I want you to do is to check on yourself what that is. In my case, that's 7 3/4 inches. Okay, so if I have that, best way for dyslexic people to have things is to just fall. Let's go for 4, right? So 4 inches between those centers here. So we know, if I overlap this a little bit here, we know where the point is that we need to measure across from, right? So it's like that. So if I put this across here, you can see, whoops, if I go in a centimeter seam allowance, it's exactly the 4 inches I need for my bust. So one thing to check is, if you're like a bigger lady of that size, is this going to be the width you need, right? So basically we're cutting out the 20, and I've also cut out the 16 so you can see it, and we're going to make it a little bit smaller. Okay, cut off the length. First step of getting the front piece like a size 16. Okay, there's quite a few things that we need to change. Now I'm going to turn this over here, and you can see that we also have a wider shoulder, which we don't need, and we also need to come in a little bit more. So I'm going to just pop this over here, and then my 16 doesn't come over quite as much either. So now I'm going to just connect this to here. Okay, so this is for the biggest one, and we're going for the biggest one because that is what the sizing is. I think the bust was 40 inches, so we're going for the biggest regular size of this. So we're getting we're aiming for, hang on, let me just see, Laurie, 40 bust, 34 inches. That's really a perfect actually difference, which will look very, very attractive. So this is now my size 20 created into a 16. I went over there a bit and I went in a bit. First thing, place these babies on top of each other here, and we're just going to reduce the length of our 20. And I'm going to measure this, and that's sort of 2 centimeters, right? So what I want to do is take the 2 centimeters out, but not just from there. I really want them to come out from there. So all I have to do is underneath my bust, somewhere here, I'm going to cut across it 2 centimeters here and 2 centimeters there, and I now overlap this. I can see this through to here. Okay, I'm going to line one side up so I don't have so much work. And here we are going to just stick a bit of paper. So I'm just going to now come in here and even it out. That's all I have to do. So now I've got the length right of my pattern piece. I've made this into a big 16. Now the other thing that's going to happen is that the armhole is going to be too big. Okay, because you're not gaining in height, you see. That's the other thing. You're just not doing that. So what I'm going to do is, to make this really easy to get it, we're going to just stick this together so this all lines up here. So that makes it easier, I think. And it's a huge difference between that one and that one, right? Huge. Here, I can even, just to make this abundantly clear what we're doing, cut this off. All we're doing is putting this on, so now we can see this is how much it's needing to go into that direction. Okay, so this is not so different from what I did in the bust adjustment. We did something very similar there, but this is of course much bigger distance. Just not. There we go. Right, so in this case I'm just going to go over. Right, so now I'm going to just walk my new piece up to make sure that it fits, because that's very, very important, and it comes over way more than that. So I'm going to do what I did in the bust adjustment. Just use my old piece here that I don't need anymore. Pop this under, sellotape this too. You walk up, with your big bust shape, and then where you get to, and I'm getting to here, I'm actually connecting this over to that line. Now let's have a look at the back. We have to do the same with the front down to the back that we did there. So I'm moving over my 16. Stick these babies together, connecting these in, because we want the 16, not the 20. There you go. And I'm cutting this off. So now I've changed this into a much bigger 16. We need to take those 2 centimeters out again. Here it's quite easy to do if you just cut along this line here, mark down the 2 centimeters. Just what? Oh, I don't know. You're just gonna have to. It's under an inch anyway. So I'm going to do the same as I did on the other side. I'm just going to lift this up. So I'm going to just cut this off, and now we're going to check it. We're going to walk this up, and with a bit of luck, yeah, look, it's just a tiny bit. So we've got this much there that we still need to add to, same as we did on the front. So I hope you're not fainting yet with this. There. It's just a little bit more actually that we need because of the shorter body. So what I do when I design pants, I do exactly the same. Once I think I've got there and it's all good, I actually pin my paper together and look at that first on my dummy or on myself, depending on what size I make. For the kids, obviously not on myself. First one together. So I've also pinned together my front. This is really crumply, but it gives you a really good first idea of what this is going to look like. So when I put my front together and my back together, I can see that somewhere here in my putting it together, I actually made it a little bit shorter. So I'm going to just add that too. I could just see that as well. It's so obvious. I don't know about you guys, if you could just go, oh my god, that armhole looks huge. I'm just going to add that to it so that these two babies here fit on top of each other. So here we go. See, that's quite a little bit more. And we want to make sure that we don't have anything like that. That would be a disaster of the highest order. So we know that we'll just have to come out a bit. Just step by step. Follow me as I do this on your pattern as well. Whoops. And Bob will be your uncle. We still have to add some more. Let's have a look again. We were just saying that we need 2.5 inches for the waist, and we need 1.5 inches on the bust still. And we're just going to do this now with a side seam. So one thing you have to think about, obviously, is you've got one side seam, the back side seam, same on the other side, so 4 times. Okay, so if you divide any of these by 4, that's what you want to add to. 2.5 divided by 4 is 0.625, and then I should do this in my head really, but I can't. And that would be 0.375, almost inches now, right? So we're going to add this to the waist. And I have to say, I am not a fan of doing anything in inches. So, and then at the top is 0.3. It's like, there's it. I do find it easier to use centimeters. Just like in centimeter, I think. And then I can use one of my terrific rulers. But you don't have to use a curved ruler, obviously. There we go. That's a side seam. Grab my bag. There it is. Stick some paper under. And now I can pop this on here. Push this over. Connect them. And there we go. I've got my bit here as well. Ta-da! And that should actually conclude. So we want to cut respectively here the lower line, that will be right. Ease that in a bit. There we go. Anyway, so what I'm doing is I'm going to add a centimeter, and I'm just going to take a centimeter down all the way and cut that off. I do that the same thing on the other side, obviously. So we get a little bit more room in the sleeve. I'm just doing the same line actually. So if let me just take this one here so that you can see it. It's basically just connecting. I can use the 20 line. There's no art to it. Yeah, you can just use that other one just to add that little bit here. So by the time I've done that on the other side, we're giving her a little bit more room so she can then do her sleeve. There we go. You're still following me. I didn't do this so you then don't try it. So brave soldiers, key is to not just make a dress once you've done this alteration, or even do a muslin until you've actually, you know, got the paper fit right first. I always put it over myself in front of the mirror as well. So I'm going to just line this up so I get my curve. There we go. So it's not massive, see, it's just that little bit. So now the front's there. I'm going to cut this off, and I can just pop these on top, and you can see that's a nice line. This line really needs to be the same, so you can always, you know, make slight adjustments to it. And then if you walk around where the 1 centimeter seam allowance is, there we go, that actually goes to higher here on the back. Right, let's check the front. And just mark this on the other side, so none of this is easy. Ah yes, see? And now it goes up straight, and we know that this fits. I pin it all together in paper so that I can check through that it's actually the right width. So I'm going to go for the waist here. Now I already know the answer. Oh, just slipped from one end to the other. And we're getting 17 inches, which is, guess what, 34. So super. That's exactly what we needed. Where's my little thing here? Look at that, 34 inches. It's just what we wanted. And more ping ping from my friend Ella. And then if you go around the front, I'm just going to push this out as much as I can. Underneath the arm, widest part to there. What do we see? 20 times 2 is 40. Bust 40. So far so good. Pattern is looking great. I'm going to put it on a dummy just to see whether it actually sits right. So if I have a straight front, a straight, yeah, that's beautiful. Shoulder, everything's looking very, very good. Yep. So that's Laurie's done. If you've got similar measurements, that's what you do. If you are wider and short, then those are the changes you have to make. If it's just a tiny little bit, like in my case, just take it off the shoulder seam. But if you go over more sizes and you've got a really big bust, then you really have to go through the rigmarole. Again, welcome to Frocks and Frolics Facebook page. Yeah, have fun sewing.